Summer is just about here, which means it's time to start barbecuing again. Whether you're going to the beach or having a small cookout in your yard, Charbroil has a grill to fit your needs. If you use our link, you can get a Charbroil one-burner portable grill for just over $100, and it's perfect for wherever you need to cook. It's convenient and portable, and works just as well in the backyard as it does on the go. Just go to multipleworldproductions.com/sponsors and use our link to shop all the great products Charbroil has to offer. Good evening, and welcome to Exploring Hyperspace Lanes. I am Adam. Josie could not be here today. We've been trying to coordinate recording an episode for a little bit now, but we had some news break that we really can't put off any further, because I would like to get the article about it, or the story about it out. As always, if you want to follow along, you can go to mwpnews.com, and a lot of these things will be posted there, as they happen, or as close to as they happen as they can, considering I work during the day. So, the big stories are, we have release dates for upcoming Star Wars movies, and Star Wars Outlaws was officially revealed, and we got a full gameplay showcase. And let's see, where do we want to start with this? Why don't we start with the Outlaws? Because Outlaws is basically just thoughts on the showcase and all of that. So we got our first trailer at more of a cinematic trailer that was shown at the Xbox showcase on Sunday, and it showcased that, the story was going to be, we're going to have this I forgot her name. I want to say it's like Kate or something, or something similar to that. It sounds earthy, but it's spelled differently. She's an outlaw, and she's going to be talking about, she's going to be going on these missions for the criminal underworld between, between episode 5 and episode 6. In the trailer, we see, Han frozen in carbonite, and, we get to go to, there's going to be a bunch of planets you go to, and apparently this is the first open-world Star Wars game that's going to be coming out. This first open-world Star Wars game is interesting. Now, it's not the first truly open-world Star Wars game, because we had one of those already in the form of Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga, the one that came out last year. That was a true open-world Star Wars game. This one will also be that, but not Lego, and it will be also the same. I don't know why it's being called the first. Maybe it's because they don't count Lego because it's for kids. I don't know. I just work here. And we saw some gameplay. And I think that my big issue with this, not with this game, but in general, is I don't know why Microsoft would show this game as part of their showcase when Ubisoft's doing their own thing. Because here's the thing. We talk a lot about how live service games are, they occupy a good amount of your time. If I play Fortnite, which I don't, I tried Fortnite when it first came out and I couldn't get into it, but okay, so, if you play Fortnite, then you don't get to, and another game comes out, you would have to spend less time playing Fortnite. And if you put money into Fortnite, that is now money that you are not having a return on investment on. It's the same with any video game, but with a live service game, it is a little bit different because you're paying more, and it's designed to be an ecosystem all to itself. Now, here's the thing. If I'm Star Wars, and I'm debuting this brand new, fuck me, this person's going so slow. And I'm debuting this brand new game. I want to do it here, but if I'm Xbox, I don't want to premiere this open world Star Wars game in my showcase, because I'm trying to showcase Starfield, which is similar. It's not the same. I mean, Star Wars might be rated M, and Starfield, from what I saw, appears to have more elements from No Man's Sky than the gameplay we saw in this, which, is what it is, but when I look at this and when I see what this game is doing, my thought is, if I have to choose between the two for time, I'm picking the Star Wars game over No Man's Sky, not No Man's Sky, over Starfield. And I think that's kind of where I am on it. Yeah, Tatooine's in it. I saw people bitching about Tatooine being in it, and it's like, look, I can kind of buy Tatooine being in, because it's like, if it's going to be set in the criminal underworld, yes, they're going to be using this. It's just the fact that everything the fuck else in Star Wars is set on Tatooine is the bigger issue for me. But regardless, Tatooine will be in this game, as will Kijimi, allegedly. But look, more power to them. I'm all for this. If we get, like, good Star Wars games, good Star Wars games are a net benefit for everyone. Good Star Wars games are always a good thing. And you know what? A lot of times, even bad Star Wars games can kind of be good. So look, if they're going to do that and they're going to give us a good Star Wars game, then by all means, give us a good Star Wars game. Let's see how this turns out. I mean, maybe this could be like Squadrons or like Jedi Survivor, and this will be one of the better games that comes out next year. But we'll see. So that looks kind of cool. Now, the bigger story is Disney reshuffled their release calendar, and if you want to hear the full thing about what got moved around in terms of Marvel and in terms of, other things that got dated, like Moana got dated and all of that, you're going to want to go and look at, go over to 30-minute reviews. We did a breakdown. Now, like a jackass, I did not validate if there had been another announcement about, about Star Wars, like about a third Star Wars date. I had seen conflicting reports about 3 Star Wars dates and never thought to look into it fully. That's on me. But we do have 2 definite dates. We have 2 dates in 2026 for Star Wars movies, and you'll recall that's significant because there were 3 movies announced. Back at Star Wars Celebration, me and Josie talked about it at length. There was the announcement of the movie, the Dawn of the Jedi, which is James Mangold directed, and it will tell the story of the origins of the Jedi, set like tens of thousands of years before the Skywalker saga. There is the new Jedi Order movie, which is being directed by Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy, who directed 2 episodes of... I really should look up how to pronounce her name, because I really hate mispronouncing people's names. Who directed 2 episodes of Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, and also did a bunch of documentary shorts. She'll be directing that, and Rey will be returning from the sequels. And then we also have Dave Filoni directed Heir to the Empire movie. And I think the thing is, it's like we don't have official titles for any of these things, but based on what they are and where they are on the timeline, I think these are safe titles for what these are. Heir to the Empire, which is set around the time as Mando and Ahsoka and all of these other shows that are happening on Disney+. And we'll wrap up all of these story arcs neatly, and we'll finish that story, and presumably will serve as a transition from the New Republic era into the First Order era. And we'll see how that plays out. Now, we have these 2 dates that are confirmed to have been announced. End of May 2026 and December 2026. Now, why are these dates significant? What do these dates potentially mean? Again, all of this with a grain of salt. All of this is speculation on my part. I think what this means is, if this is accurate, that there are only 2 dates, I think it confirms what I have previously said about Mangold directing Dawn of the Jedi, especially considering he will also be directing Swamp Thing for DC over at Warner Brothers. I think it confirms that his continued involvement with Star Wars will be very heavily dependent on what happens with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which comes out at the end of this month. If Indiana Jones comes out and is a hit, then I think he's safe to stay on if he wants to stay on. And it sounds like he does. He wants to be this historical epic in the vein of like the 10 Commandments. And if he's going to stay on, great. Awesome. But we've seen from Lucasfilm they tend to overreact and overcorrect for perceived issues. You have the initial failure of what's it called? Like they don't like the path that Solo is going down with Lord and Miller. They're midway through production. They axe Lord and Miller, bring in, who was it? Was it Zemeckis? No, Ron Howard. Ron Howard finishes it out. They have to reshoot the movie and shoot the movie from scratch twice. And what ends up happening is you end up with a disjointed movie that's not very good. And then on top of that, the budget to actually make it was like $500 million, and it had no chance of making that back. And okay, so they do that, and it's like that was an overreaction by Lucasfilm to fire them midway through production, purely to, because you didn't like their directing style, which you should have known when you hired them. Because if there's one thing they're known for, you should have known they were going to do that. And look, I think it all worked out because then we got Spider-Verse, so whatever. But then on top of that, and then they also got fired from The Flash too, which we'll be talking about The Flash tomorrow and beware of spoilers. But then on top of that, you also have, firing of Colin Trevorrow after, The Last Jedi. I believe it was after The Last Jedi. They fired Trevorrow. And brought in, because Trevorrow also had Book of Henry Bomb, which is the movie with, what's it called? With, they hired him after Jurassic World, then his movie after Jurassic World bombed, and then they got worried, so they fired him from that. So all you have here is just Lucasfilm tends to overreact on these things. And if Dial of Destiny does not work, regardless of how much of it not working is the fault of James Mangold, and how much blame can be assigned elsewhere, be it with, James Mangold himself, be it with whoever wrote it. I think Jonathan Kasdan wrote the script, or was involved in the script. Be it with, who was the other one? Like, be it with performances in the movie. Be it with Kathleen Kennedy, if blame deserves to go there, which it may not, but it may end up anyway. Like, regardless of all of that, he may end up getting fired from this new Star Wars movie. If it's well received, I think it's all good. And I think the thing is, it's like, Lucasfilm hasn't had a theatrical offering in 4 years. Because 2019 was the last time they had something out in the theaters. They had Willow and then a bunch of TV stuff, but since The Rise of Skywalker, they have not put out a theatrical thing. And they haven't had a theatrical thing that was well received since the Rogue One, I would say. Because, and I'm saying, near universal acclaim, and it made a lot of money. Because, The Last Jedi made a lot of money, and I like The Last Jedi a lot. But The Last Jedi is a divisive movie. You can't say it's not, whether you like it or not. It's a divisive movie. There are its defenders, there are its detractors, but The Last Jedi is a divisive movie. Lucasfilm is going to want to not take any chances. Lucasfilm is going to want to make sure they can guarantee a hit, and especially if they're going to bring back Star Wars, they want to bring it back at the strongest possible way. If they can assign blame on this to Mangold, then they will. And look, that may be the best timeline for us, because, if they did that to Lord and Miller and we got Spider-Verse, maybe Swamp Thing will end up being fantastic. We know that James Mangold can do a fantastic job with a comic book property. He directed Logan. But at the end of the day, the issue is, are they going to do that or not? That's why I don't think there's a third date on the calendar. It's because what happens with Dawn of the Jedi is very much in flux. I think the other two are concrete, the other two movies. Because Dave Filoni's directing one, and we have cast, and Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy is directing the other, and we have Ray at least. And I think that what we have is, it's just going to be these two movies are coming out, and it's going to line up with the original releases of the era these movies are taking place. And let me explain. If you go back and watch the last 4 episodes of, what was that one called? The Clone Wars. It's meant to be watched in a batch. It's meant to be watched as a pod of 4 episodes, like as basically a movie. And it does kind of take place at the same time as, it is at the same time as Revenge of the Sith. And it lines up. You have musical cues that tell you what's happening when, and it does line up with Revenge of the Sith. The first episode opens in a way that no other Clone Wars episode, or any Clone Wars anything, or Star Wars anything for that matter, has opened since 1977, which is the green Lucasfilm Limited logo that ran before A New Hope back in 1977. And they haven't done anything like that before. Since 1977, they have not done anything since then with that opening. And it is designed to evoke that emotion, that you're about to go through this and this is going to be different from everything else you've seen in this. And by and large, it works. And if we look at anything else Filoni has done, it's like, oh, look at this is great, like this is all, look at these references to things you love Boba Fett, here's an entire fucking show about Boba Fett, here's this thing you like, here's this thing you like, here's this thing you like. All of that is very well done and very well executed, and to an extent, I mean, you do get into what, I love the term glub shitto, but glub shitto territory at times, but whatever. I mean, a lot of it is done very well. And I think that if I'm Filoni, and I'm in this headspace that he seems to occupy, I think the most likely thing is he wants to have his movie come out, and he wants it to operate the same way as the original theatrical run of Star Wars. So he wants it to come out in late May. The problem is, May of 2026 is a little bit packed already. Because May of 2026, we now have delayed to May of 2026 Avengers: The Kang Dynasty, which got pushed back a year. So if Kang Dynasty is coming out in 2026 at the beginning of the month, and at the end of the month we have Filoni's movie, if it is Filoni's movie, I mean, it's one of the 3 movies that we know about. If it is Filoni's movie, then how does that work out? Because we've seen this exact situation before. We have a 2-part Avengers event. Part 1 comes out, and then Part 2 is coming out a year later. Part 1 comes out at the beginning of May, and at the end of May, there's a Star Wars movie. Now, I'm not saying that had it not been for Avengers, Solo would have done better, but I'm certainly saying it wouldn't have hurt Solo to have a little bit of breathing room, where it wasn't, being eaten by, at the time, what was one of the top movies of all... I mean, it still is one of the top movies of all time at the box office, with some of the strongest legs. Like, it just would have made sense to push it back deeper in the summer, or even back and keep the December date. And I understand why they did that. I mean, look, all of this comes down to poor decision-making by Disney in the immediate aftermath of the thing. I highly recommend that anyone who's interested go and read Bob Iger's book to get it. And it really does paint the picture of what happened within the Walt Disney Company in the immediate aftermath of the acquisition of Lucasfilm, where they needed to show that they could make a return on the investment to the $4 billion they paid to George Lucas for this. So to show that they could do that, they had to pump out these movies really quickly. And by and large, I mean, that's what it came from. But that's what it was originally supposed to come out in May, but they had to push it back, The Force Awakens, and then they started moving the slate around to accommodate that. The plan was always to move back to May, but then because of the production troubles that went into The Rise of Skywalker, it got pushed back to December as well. So it was planned to be Star Wars can go back to being a summer movie, but now it's a holiday movie by and large for a new generation. And if you look at it that way, it's kind of like, well, why would we move it at all? Why wouldn't we just keep it there? And it seems like Disney likes this late December date. Disney is indicating that they like to have that because they need the long run in January. Because like they moved Thunderbolts there, Avatar's occupying that slot, and then we have another Star Wars movie in 2026 also occupying that spot in the form of what's it called? In the form of what was that movie called? New Jedi Order. If New Jedi Order is going to come out at the end of the year, because that's when the sequels came out. I'm basing this all on that, by the way, where it's like, and how far into development it is. Because at this point, there's a lot less work that goes into the Filoni movie, so that makes sense to be first. Then there's some work, there's a lot of work to be done, but like a little more going into the new Jedi Order movie. And I think the thing that isn't being talked about here is that this will serve as a transition period, 2026, if this is accurate, from the way Lucasfilm is now on Disney Plus into the new form. Because that's the thing. My question was, well, what are they going to do? What are they going to do once they finish the Mandalorian stories? Once they finish all that, are they just going to keep Mandalorian going on after he's completed his arc? That could be silly. Like, once they complete the story of Thrawn and all of that, where does the show continue? How does it continue going on from there? And I think the answer is, well, we pivot and we go to new Jedi Order shows. And we start building out that part of the universe. Or we go to Dawn of the Jedi stories and start building out that part of the universe. And I think that's what we're going to be looking at, the thing. And that's number one. Number two, also, we might by this point be pivoting away from streaming originals as a source of content for Star Wars, because one of the things that we're seeing now in the streaming space is it's kind of like the gold rush. Earlier we talked about the live service games. It's kind of like the gold rush there, where everyone was like, oh shit, there's money in live service games, everyone go do it. So everyone went and did it, and it's like, oh shit, people aren't moving to our game, now we gotta close up shop. And if that's the case, and we're in the same situation here, where it's like, oh shit, there's money in streaming, let's all do streaming originals. And, we end up with Disney Plus, HBO Max, Hulu, all of these different streamers that are all doing basically the same thing. And when you look at how this works, it is kind of an interesting situation to be in, because it's obvious that there isn't the money there that there was. And under Chapek, who was the CEO of Disney up until he got fired and replaced by Bob Iger coming back, somehow Bob Iger has returned. Like, after that, when Chapek is now in the captain's chair, the question is, how do we do this? And if you look at what happened under his tenure, everything became about streaming. Get Disney Plus content. So you end up with Marvel Studios with like a fuck ton of projects. You end up with Star Wars having a fuck ton of things and spin-offs and all of this shit. They want content, they want subscribers for Disney Plus. They want you to, sign up, pay your $15 a month, forget about it, and then just keep paying from then on out. And it's like, okay, I like, that is the business model around every streamer. But at the same time, the issue is, how do we continue to monetize? How do we continue to make money on this? And the issue is that they weren't, so now we have a scaling back. There's a reason why we no longer have 15 Marvel shows a year and 3 Star Wars shows a year. Like, there's a reason why we are now 6 months in, and we are a little over a week away from our first Marvel show coming out. And the reason for that is, they wisened up and were like, let's take a minute, breathe, let some time, pass between these shows, get the effects right, get it looking nice, and then move on from there. It's the same reason, like, between the two, we've had one show, between Star Wars and Marvel. We had Mandalorian and Bad Batch. But in live action, we had Mandalorian. And the only reason for that is because they don't, like, they know now we are going to let these things breathe a little bit before we, oversaturate the market and just destroy everything. And now we have things going the way they are now. And there's a possibility that by the time we get to the Mandalorian movie ending everything, and I keep calling it the Mandalorian movie, but it's like the New Republic movie, the Heir to the Empire movie, like, by the time we get to that movie, the question becomes, well, what do we do now? What, like, do we keep putting stuff out with the same expedience in this era, or do we move on? Do we just let this ride, or do we move on from here? And I think that, like, I think there's a possibility that they go, like, they either start doing new things outside of the initial original trilogy era and start building out the universe in other ways, or they just go, we're going to, loosen our streaming. We're not going to do as much as we were. And either one would be beneficial, I think, as a whole, for the Star Wars mythos. Because, look, I've liked The Mandalorian, I've liked Obi-Wan Kenobi, I loved Andor, and Andor is among the best Star Wars ever, despite how low it's ranked on our thing. With all that, I think, and like, I love Jedi Survivor, we need to build out the universe outside of, especially since we've thrown out anything, before 2014. We need to expand the universe out from between episode 4 and episode 9. And really, the immediate surroundings between, like, the aftermath of 3 through the beginning of 7 is kind of where Star Wars has been living in the last few years. And that's not good. Like, they've been building out, like, the High Republic, and some of the High Republic stuff I've really liked. That said, there's a lot more space you can go to. And because even in the grand scale of how all-encompassing the timeline for Star Wars is, the High Republic is still relatively close to, the prequels. It is, if you were looking at it and you didn't know it was 200 years beforehand, it's written so weirdly that you could be like, this is 3,000 years beforehand, this is 10 minutes beforehand. Who knows? I don't. Moving on. And yeah, I mean, Jedda's still an active temple, and there's a bunch of stuff in there that does indicate that it is older than 10 minutes. I'm being hyperbolic. But at the end of the day, if that's the only thing that you're taking away from this, is they have to start building out the other stuff. And I think that ending The Mandalorian and all of that at that point, and then moving on from there, is probably the best bet. Because it'll let you reinvigorate the franchise in a way that, you didn't with the sequels. That's the key. Is that the sequels did not do to Star Wars what they were hoping it would, which was bring it back in a way that, a younger generation would be interested in. Because I'm going to be honest, I went to Walmart today, and I had to go to the bathroom while I was there. And while I was walking through the, I walked past the toy aisle to get in there, and they have toys for shit that, I didn't know was still, it might still be popular. I don't have kids, but, I didn't know Beyblade was still a thing, and it was still popular. Apparently it is. The Star Wars showings are anemic. And they're having trouble moving Star Wars product. And at the end of the day, and anyone who says otherwise is blinded by nostalgia, Star Wars is a 2.5-hour long toy commercial. And if they are not doing something that's making your kid go, oh shit, I really like this, we should, I should go buy toys based on it, then they are missing the point of what Star Wars is. Go and watch Empire of Dreams. If you don't know what that is, it is a documentary that Fox did around the time of Episode 3 that was about, the making of Star Wars and all of that. And in that, they say, it's on Disney+. In that, they say, the true genius of Star Wars, and they're right, was not just what Star Wars created, but it was in George Lucas retaining the merchandising rights. Because at the time, no one thought that was worth anything. And Star Wars toys are among some of the most collected items on the planet at this point. But we'll wrap up there. I'm looking forward to this. I want to see more cool stuff. I've said it before, and I hate the people, make fun of me for this, but I would love good Star Wars, but I'll also take bad Star Wars. If I have the option, I want good Star Wars. And we've had some good Star Wars lately. I would like to see this trend continue. And Outlaws looks like it's continuing that trend. So until next time, have a great rest of your week. If you enjoyed this show, be sure to check out our other shows. We have Beware of Spoilers, where we talk about new release movies. We have 30-minute reviews, where we talk about older stuff and current events in the entertainment industry. And we have Exploring Hyperspace Lanes, where every week Josie and I get together to talk about random stuff in our lives, and also we rank and review everything Star Wars, old stuff, new stuff, all of it. And you can find all of these shows on Spotify,
on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, or wherever you find your podcasts. Or, to get it simpler, you just go to bewareofspoilers.com or exploringhyperspacelanes.com or 30minutereviews.com, and it'll redirect you right to the Spotify page. Thank you, and thank you for enjoying our content.